I was first diagnosed with chronic kidney disease when I was 3 years old, which was caused by renal artery stenosis, which is the narrowing of the arteries supplying the blood to the kidneys. Luckily, I actually didn't need dialysis, but however, I was on a strict diet where I wasn't allowed salt, which wasn't difficult for me as I grew up being on a no-salt diet. But however, my family adapted to that, so that must have been quite hard for them. But although, so like our evening meals wouldn't have like no salt in it, but however, we did have like a chef in our family, which made our meals just that little bit more tasteful. So throughout the next 8 years, up to the age of 11, I would have routine checkups every 1 to 2 months at the Southampton General Hospital. The whole experience of having chronic kidney disease made me constantly feel a bit tired. I had pale skin. I was very skinny, where I didn't have much of an appetite. I was missing out on quite a lot of my education where I had obviously having routine checkups and being admitted into hospital every now and then. So in 2008, my parents were tested for potential donors, and lucky enough, both my parents were suitable matches. So later on in March 2009, I had my kidney transplant at the age of 11, which was donated by my dad. The transplant took place under the Evelina Children's Hospital and the Guy's Hospital in London. So what they did, they took my dad's kidney out at Guy's Hospital and then they transported it over to me in Evelina, where I was. I was very nervous on the lead up to my transplant. I remember having counselling at Southampton and where they would use like a teddy and some hospital props and some photos to show what happened on the lead up to transplant and post. Oh yeah, and so this was actually going to be my second surgery. My first surgery when I was 3 years old, so I wasn't really sure what to expect, and it was my dad's first ever surgery as well. He's never actually been admitted into hospital before, so we weren't really sure what to expect, to be honest. The recovery wasn't too bad. I ended up being in hospital for 10 days, and then I lived in London in the Ronald McDonald houses for 4 weeks, where I had checkups every day to every other day. The difficult thing was I was a little bit homesick. I did miss seeing my friends. However, on days I didn't have checkups, me and my parents would sort of go around London, be like tourists for the day and see all the like London attractions and sights. It was really nice being able to again go back to normal and eat whatever I wanted. I'd colour back into my skin, my appetite went through the roof because obviously the side effects of the steroids, so I wasn't no longer very skinny. Let's just say that. So the British Games. All right, put your hand up if you've ever heard of transplant sport or the British Transplant Games. Okay, a few hands. So the British Transplant Games are organised on the behalf of transplant sport. The Games began in 1978 in Portsmouth by Dr. Slapak, who at the time was a consultant transplant surgeon. About 100 participants took part in the first Games in just a one-day event. Over the past 35 years, the Games have grown to a 4-day annual event with over 800 transplant recipients aged from 2 to 80 plus taking part in over 20 different sports with over 2,000 supporters watching on. Some participants come to win medals, training for their specialist events, hoping to be selected for Team GB, competing at the World Transplant Games. Most come to meet new friends, catch up with old friends, enjoy new sports at their own pace, and for a relaxing few days with others who've also faced organ failure but are now fit and well as a result of a successful transplant. The Games aims are to 1, raise awareness of the need of organ donation, 2, to encourage transplant recipients to lead active lifestyles, and 3, to also show appreciation for and remember donors and their families. I competed at every single British Games since my first in Coventry 2009. Swimming was a sport that I've always been doing from a very young age. Soon as I was diagnosed with renal failure, and that's what I tend to compete in at the Games, all the hospital teams compete against each other, and so I was on the Evelina Children's team up until 2015, and now we're competing as an adult on the Portsmouth team. I currently have 37 gold, 4 silver and 4 bronze British medals. The European Transplant Games happen every other year for a week in the summer. Around 30 countries attend and about 600 athletes compete. I've been to the past 2 European Games, which was in Poland 2014 and Finland 2016. The first European Games took place in 2000 in Athens, Greece. This summer, the 2018 European Games are actually being held in Italy. I currently have 8 gold, 4 silver and 2 bronze European medals. Today we hold the Summer World Transplant Games every 2 years. In 1987, the World Transplant Games Federation was officially formed and now has nearly 70 member countries worldwide. The World Transplant Games has been held in countries around the world, with the most recent being in Spain 2017, Argentina 2015, South Africa 2013, and Sweden 2011, Australia 2009. The standards of these games can be high. The 100-metre sprint has a record of 11.18 seconds, with the official world record being 9.58 seconds, which is obviously held by Usain Bolt. Over 1,500 athletes compete in the World Games in over 50 sports. I currently have, I've competed in 3 World Transplant Games, which are in Sweden 2011, South Africa 2013. I missed out on Argentina in 2015 because I just thought I wanted to go on a break, and then I came back for Spain 2017. Not only do GB know how to celebrate after the games are done at the closing ceremony, but we certainly know that we dominate the medal table every time. For example, in Spain last year, Team GB came with 104 bronze, 90 silver, 166 gold medals as a team, so it's a total of 360 medals. Now comparing to USA, who came second on the medal table, they won 47 bronze, 52 silvers and 45 gold, with a total of 144 medals. I currently have 18 gold world medals and currently hold 15 world records. Worlds in Spain last year was definitely my most successful year, coming away with 7 gold medals and breaking 5 world records. Was definitely a dream come true. Not only that, one of those world records, which was the 50-metre freestyle, had been stood for 28 years since 1989. I also managed to beat my biggest competition yet, who was from Germany, in the 200-metre individual medley. And see, this woman always seemed to knock off 4 seconds off her time every year. So when in January I sit down with my coach and set targets and times of what I want to achieve in 6 months' time. And so when we set targets, he just said to me, like, so what do you want to achieve in 6 months' time? And so I said, this German athlete knocks off 4 seconds in 12 months. I want to knock off 5 seconds in 6 months. And that's what I did exactly 6 months later. To me, obviously, to some it's obviously about medals and the colour of them. To me, it's like my own personal achievements such as that mean more to me, and the medals are just a bit of a bonus. So what's next for me? This summer I'll be competing at the European Transplant Games in Italy, and then shortly after I'm going to the British Transplant Games taking place in Birmingham. This year's British is a bit more serious for some, as this year's the trials in a way for who gets to represent Great Britain next year in the 2019 World Transplant Games, which is actually, in fact, we won the bet of who hosted against Houston. World Transplant Games is in fact coming here to the UK in Newcastle next year. Selection letters tend to come out like a month or 2 after British. Out of my 5 individual events I did at 2017 World Games, I broke 4 out of the 5 world records. The one I didn't beat was the 50-metre breaststroke, so I'm hoping to break that this year, as I'm only currently 0.6 seconds off the current world record, which has been stood since Bangkok in 2007. The World Transplant Games are recognised by the Olympic Committee, but I would love to see transplantees having a category in the Paralympics, as I think it would raise awareness of organ donation. I do believe that having the donation conversation with your loved one is the most important thing, as your family will less likely stop you from donating your organs when you are no longer with us. And obviously, lastly, if anyone knows someone who's had an organ transplant, tell them about the British Transplant Games and see if they would be interested in coming along. I don't think it's too late to register for this year's Games in Birmingham, whether it's to compete competitively or the fun and social side of things, because it is really a great few days away. And that's it. Thank you.
So that was an amazing talk, and this is a truly inspirational young woman who, I have to say, I hadn't realised you had done quite as much and had won quite as many gold medals. So I think it just goes to show that, you know, Nicole's had chronic kidney disease from a young age that has clearly impacted on her life as she was growing up, but she's come out of it, has had a transplant that's been successful, and is just doing incredibly amazing things. And I think she's a real inspiration, absolutely. So has anybody got any questions that they would like to ask? I think you're probably all stunned into silence by the gold medals. Have you bought any of your medals by any chance?
Yeah, they're in my bag if you want to get them.
Let's have a look. I think we should see How much do you train in a week? What's your routine for your average week?
So it'll be Mondays, Tuesdays, Friday. So I train 8 times a week.
Right.
My days off are only Saturdays and Thursdays, so sometimes I'll obviously train twice a week. Morning sessions will be from about 5 a.m. in the morning, and then I'll go to work and then go for training from till 7 o'clock in the evening.
Right. So that's a huge commitment. So
Yeah.
What do you do when you're not swimming? What's your job?
So I currently work, I'm taking a year out of education. I'm hoping to go to uni next year, so I'm just working at Marks and Spencer at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so just sort of get some money behind me.
And I know Nicole's a great advocate for transplants because obviously it's changed her life, and as I keep harping back to one of the big things about World Kidney Day is promoting transplantation, so I think this has been an excellent person to do that. So you're going to show us some of your medals.
Yeah, so this one here was my first, one of my golds I won in my first Worlds in Gothenburg, Sweden, 2011. So that was my first Worlds. What did I get after that? This was my second Worlds, which was in South Africa, which I definitely think was one of the best World Games out of the past 3 I've gone to. What else have I got? This is my first Europeans back in Poland 2014. It's there.
So you get to do quite a bit of travelling, which is a great
Yeah, which is
advantage
nice.
for competing in games.
And then obviously I missed Argentina Worlds, and so I came back round to Europeans in Finland 2016. And then this is obviously the ones that mean the most to me. This was last year's World in Spain, where obviously I won my 7 golds and then my world records as well.
Fantastic.
And then these are the British medals. They actually changed this year. They've always been the same for the past, well, however long I've been going, 2009. But this last year's games, they actually changed the medal design. A lot bigger and a lot heavier now, which is nice. And obviously where it was up in Scotland, it's got that sort of
Fantastic tartan on the
pattern.
back.
Yeah, which is nice.
I have to say, I had no idea that transplant games were so dominated by Team GP. Did you know that? I mean, that's news. That's
Yeah.
I think, quite amazing. So
Yeah, we always do very well on the medal table.
great
Yeah.
to see if it could be part of the Paralympics, as you say.
Yeah.
So has anybody got any questions for Nicole about
Life in transplant still, not necessarily about you. So a lot of people are worried about how they would feel after donating a kidney. So I work in a renal unit, and some of our bodies need to have a transplant. So if we were going to try and promote this living donor thing, how is your dad? Has he had to make any adjustments or anything like that?
No, he's actually all right. Yeah, I mean, he was only, when they say you're normally in hospital for about 4 days, and he was kept in an extra day because he had a chest infection, but he's quite prone to those. Other than that, no, he's fine. He's only, I think, had like 2 checkups since 9 years ago. He's just gone back to a normal life. I think he couldn't drive for a little bit, but I think it's like a couple of months, and he obviously had a couple of months off work as well. I think that's the only major factors there. It didn't really impact his life at all.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth saying that anybody that donates kidneys, a living donor, has an extremely thorough workup to make sure they are not disadvantaged in any way by giving a kidney. And the usual routine for follow-up once that has happened is once a year annual check. So these patients are kept an incredibly close eye on, and the outcome data is very, very good for kidney donors. So yeah.
Yeah, that's my dad up there at last year's at Worlds.
Questions? There were some other hands earlier. Yes.
So, would you be on any medication post-transplant? Is that affecting any of your performance?
I am still on a lot of medication. That's something that continues post-transplant. Whether it affects me at all, no, it doesn't really at all, no. Doesn't affect me.
Just get used to taking them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things with particularly younger patients. And again, we'll hear from Dr. Nagra later on, but it's quite a challenging time for teenagers or young children, you know, growing up anyway with all the burdens they have to cope with, and to throw a chronic illness into the mix and potentially a transplant and having to be compliant with medication. And we do recognise that in the transition from paediatric to adult care around the time of 18, that can be a really difficult time for young adults, and there's an increased risk of non-compliance with medications, which obviously when you've had a transplant can have a major bad outcome.
Yeah.
So,
And when you're going through the transition of being a child to a young adult,
Yeah.
obviously you take on other responsibilities. So like
That's right.
when you're trying to make up a week worth of meds and you get in from like a hard training session at like 9 o'clock in the evening, you realise, oh, I haven't made up my meds. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
but no, you do get used to it. Yeah,
So
it is
that's
fine.
Yeah.
How many tablets are your current taking now?
I'm trying to think I'd say about 5 in the morning and then 6 in the evening. Yeah, about that.
And that's probably fairly consistent now.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. It hasn't. My medication hasn't changed in probably a couple of years now. So.
And the question is, I just wanted to know how long it took you to build up
Very good question. Yeah.
So even from at the age of 3, I was only doing like little swimming lessons, like most children do, once a week. And then when I did my first British Transplant Games in Coventry 2009, no it wasn't, it's Bath 2010. I went to Coventry 2009, but I competed in first in Bath 2010. And I came away, I think, was a silver and a bronze just from doing like 1 training sessions a week, but that was only in the younger age category, so it isn't as serious. So from winning that, I was then selected for Worlds in Sweden 2011, which was then I won my 4 golds. And basically the guy that I was just doing once a week swim lessons a week was just saying, you need to get into competitive swimming, you need to start training more often if you want to get to the higher levels. So now I train from like, if I'm not training from on my break, I'll be training like 4 times a week. And then if it gets towards a competition, then I'll up my game and do 8 times a week of swimming and then gym work between that as well to get some weights in.
So you have to be very, very dedicated.
Yeah.
You clearly are, which is great. Any final questions? Yes?
Sorry to ask a question. Thank you for a really inspirational story. Can I just ask, having been salt restricted from the age of 3, do you now eat salt?
Oh yeah, I love salt. Yeah.
Not too much.
Yeah. Like it's just simple things, like you weren't allowed cheese or ham in your sandwiches. Every day to school I just have like a boring chicken sandwich and just stuff like that, and having Coke and just things with just, you know, salt in. And yeah.
It can be a very restrictive diet.
Yeah.
Some of you may know with chronic kidney disease and certainly being on dialysis. So.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much
That's all right.
for coming and sharing your experience.